Hello and welcome to another Sci-Fest Movie Talk episode. So, in this episode, continuing my Star Trek journey, I'll be discussing the 1989 science fiction movie Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, directed by, this time around, none other than Kirk himself, William Shatner, taken over the mantle from Leonard Nimoy, who had directed two of the last movies in the series. I believe this was Shatner's first and last directorial stint for the Star Trek series. As a disclaimer, I will probably give some spoilers for this film and others in the Star Trek series, and so please do switch off now if you don't want to hear any of the plot details for them films. Please do come back though when you've watched the films. Let me know what you thought of them and finish my review. The movie sees the cast of the original Star Trek TV series return for yet another adventure into the unknown, along with the iconic Starship Enterprise, which has been rebuilt as NCC-1701A following the events of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and as teased at the end of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. The film sees us introduced to Sybok, as played by, fingers and thumbs, Lawrence Luckinbill, a renegade Vulcan who embraces his emotions and is on a quest to find the mythological planet of Shaka-Ree, the origin of all creation, Eden to all of us Terrans. In executing his mission, however, he needs a mode of transport to get him to the planet, and takes a human, a Klingon, and a Romulan ambassador on the planet of intergalactic peace, that's it, hostage in an attempt to draw a starship to him, knowing that at least one of the races will mount a rescue mission. And of course, the Starship Enterprise is the only one with an experienced captain in range. Being called back from shore leave to an Enterprise which is hardly working, we then find Kirk, Spock and Bones, as played again by William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley respectively. They join the rest of the crew in order to mount a daring rescue mission with no operational transporters, I might add. However, all is not what it seems, and Sybok kind of ends up taking over the Enterprise and its crew, releasing them from their pain, which in turn seems to make them more receptive to Sybok's quest. Reluctantly, Kirk does actually eventually assist Sybok in his mission to find Shaka-Ree, sensing that the mission has a much better chance of success with him back in command, and that the appeal of walking into the unknown and potentially discovering a new planet is basically just a bit too good to resist. So, thinking about it, the film for me, it does actually start with so much promise and wonder, with an absolutely fantastic opening sequence involving our first glimpse of Sybok, suggesting a real kind of sense of adventure into the unknown. The big, bold Star Trek themes are back, marking the welcome return of Jerry Goldsmith. Simply Star Trek to the core, and it opens with some great banter between Spock, Kirk and Bones as they enjoy their shore leave in Yosemite National Park, and kind of try and entice Spock to join in with a round of row, row, row your boat. Fantastic comedy, watching a Vulcan try and understand the simple enjoyment of singing and the customs of camping. The comedy in the movie is actually one of its redeeming qualities, carrying on from the tradition sort of set by the last film, The Voyage Home. The repartee between Kirk, Spock and Bones is absolutely on top form. In fact, I think it's the best it's probably been so far in the series. The film also has a strong sense of exploration, the very essence of what Star Trek was originally about in the first instance, going boldly where no one has gone before. I just think that following the trilogy of films that preceded it in the story and the plot, by comparison, it's just weaker. It certainly doesn't carry as much weight for me as those three installments, and I just find the overall premise just a little bit odd. But ultimately, as the story progresses, it just kind of falls flat. It never really takes off and just simply plods on. One of the elements in the movie is the introduction of a Klingon bird of prey into the overall mix, helmed by Captain Kla, as portrayed by Todd Bryant. And again, you think, wow, Here you go. See a Bird of Prey in a Star Trek movie, and you know there's going to be some action. It's certainly teased. Clark is fed up of using space junk as target practice, and when he learns that the Enterprise will be coming to the rescue of the hostages at the beginning of the film, he then becomes absolutely hell-bent on attacking the Enterprise for his own personal gratification and glory. Don't get me started on why he wasn't thinking, let's rescue the hostages, not forgetting one of them was a Klingon commander. And while I'm on this, where were the Romulans in all of this? They didn't seem to be too fussed about their ambassador being taken hostage, and nobody even considered them a player. Poor Romulans. I mean, they are a formidable force later on, of course, but anyway. However, the action sequence between the Klingons and the Enterprise consists of 2 encounters total, with 1 shot being fired by the Bird of Prey in each. 1 missed. That's it. No grand action sequences, no classic Star Trek manoeuvres. It just simply fizzles out at these points. An absolutely missed opportunity, if you ask me, personally. In fact, the shots of the ships themselves are lacking. There's no grand sweeping sequences here at all. Each time you see them, it's for a fraction of a second in sort of real quick snapshots and flybys. In fact, overall, you get to see more of a space shuttle than you do the Enterprise and the Bird of Prey. The whole story seems like a jumble of themes and mismatched stories, and pretty much loses its way about halfway through, as the film kind of starts to bring in a number of religious undertones and connotations. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing in itself, but just simply didn't work in this film, and it kind of weighed it down more than it needed to have been. The planet of Shakari and the voyage taken to get there also really seems lackluster. For some reason, there's a mythological planet that nobody's ever found, and a great barrier at the centre of the universe nobody's ever penetrated before, or if they had, never returned. Again, built up fantastically for an explosive and action-packed journey, you'd think. Yeah? Well, no. Apparently, this planet that nobody's ever found before seems to be only round the corner. It takes them no time at all to actually get there. And when they do, the crossing the Great Barrier, it just simply does nothing more than shake the Enterprise a bit. It was just all a bit too easy given the tantalising build-up that was kind of presented to us. The crew, including Kirk, were also too quick to jump on the fact that this planet was indeed Shakari, with literally no proof but for Cypok's say-so. I mean, what made this planet different from any other that they'd encountered with an unknown energy field surrounding it? The mind boggles, to be fair. Finally, we'll give up. The film also centres significantly around Kirk, Spock and Bones. The other crew members feature a little, but were nowhere near enough, with most only having kind of walk-on and walk-off parts and one-liners, not really contributing anything to the overall plot in any significant way once the initial hostages had been rescued, if you like. They then just kind of fade into the background as subtext. One more thing before I stop going on, promise. The film also leaves a lot of questions unanswered, for me anyway. I'm sure that you guys might know some of the answers. I don't know. I would like to think that this was kind of to add more mystique, but personally, given the way that the film is presented, it's probably more likely that they just didn't have time or just simply forgot. For me, it's never truly explained as to how Sybok can do what he does, which just seems odd as we rely on it so much. It's mostly kind of symbolic, and you never really understand if he can kind of control people or if they're doing it of their own free will, just simply free of their pain. In which case, would this not mean then that they were traitors? You also never truly find out what the entity is they find on Shakari. Okay, so we do find out that it's at least a prisoner of some sort. But who is it? And what is it? And why is it there? That's never answered. But we know what it isn't, and that's about it. A bit bewildering for me, given that this entity technically becomes the film's climatic antagonist. And not really true Star Trek if we don't know what we're dealing with. So, overall, not the strongest entry in the Star Trek film series by a long shot. It has its good points and plays to some classic Star Trek themes and throwbacks. With some good comedy moments, I agree, especially with some of the jokes made with regards to the condition of the Enterprise, such as the lifts not working and the doors not opening. A well-known issue on the sets of the original series. The musical score is excellent and presents the mysterious and explorative nature of the film very well, but ultimately, the film fails to deliver on the promises it kind of sets up at the beginning, and although it has a very simplistic plot, somehow they manage by the end of the movie to make it dreary, lackluster, and sometimes a bit confusing and frustrating in places. It's not one that I would totally avoid, but if you are new to Star Trek and want to watch an original series crew movie, please start with The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2. Definitely not this one. Come back to this one later. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do think about subscribing to Sci-First Movie Talk for more movie reviews, movie trailer reactions, movie-related gameplay, all kinds of movie-related things and other items. But most of all, please do come back to Sci-First Movie Talk. We'd love to have you back. We'd hope to see you again. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.